Welcome back, everybody. Time in the WHIP studios is 11:16. Hopefully, there will be a football game on Sunday. Due to the possible hurricane in the Washington, D.C. area, the game may be delayed until Week 8 when the Redskins and Eagles are both on a bye, but we'll see. So let's go down to Washington, D.C. right now and welcome in our resident expert for the Washington Redskins, and that's Chad Dukes from 106.7 The Fan. Chad, Zach Gelb here as always. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
Zach, great to talk to you again, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it's great to have you on. So I have a credential for Sunday. I was all pumped up to go and cover this game between the Eagles and the Redskins, and now that may not happen. Give us the latest of what you're hearing about this weather coming up on Sunday. I know it's hard to predict.
Yeah, I'm hearing the same things you are about the hurricane, and I'm seeing all the bad Joaquin Phoenix shtick on Facebook, which is ruining my Thursday. But, look, there's nothing we like in Washington, D.C. more than to get whipped up into a frenzy about a storm. We love buying all the toilet paper. We love buying all the milk and all that nonsense. So I don't want to, give out bad information or dismiss the severity of the weather. Don't be surprised if it is not everything that it's cracked up to be. So I would be shocked. Look, here's what might happen. They might reschedule the game, and then we might be all sitting there saying, well, we could have played football on this. That's generally the way things are handled down here.
Well, from our standpoint and a talk show host perspective, the bye week usually stinks in the National Football League when you're covering your team in that region. So even if they do have to postpone it to Week 8, I guess it's selfishly good for us because then we don't have to sit there on a dry week and try to make some stuff up.
Yeah, it's not bad for the Redskins either because they want to get Deshaun Jackson back. They're going to be facing a Philadelphia Eagles team that, at least has the ability. We haven't seen it yet, but they have the ability to make big offensive plays and go down the field. You want your biggest deep threat. They have absolutely missed him for the first 3 weeks of this season. Their offense hasn't looked all that dynamic, and it actually probably would be a boon for this team because they're without D'Angelo Hall right now, too. So if they could put off this game and figure out a way to get back and butt heads with the Philadelphia Eagles when they get some of their key pieces back, it probably actually would benefit Washington.
Billy Davis said they're preparing as if Deshaun Jackson is going to play in this game. Jay Gruden said he was a bit lukewarm about Deshaun Jackson's status. Do you think he will play or they're going to hold him out another week?
I think Deshaun Jackson has a lot of animosity towards Philadelphia. Maybe not fans, but the organization. I think he will do everything he can to get out there. But he's Deshaun Jackson, Zach. You know as well as I do. He's a guy that gets injured. He's a guy that's sleight of frame. He's a mercury. He's lightning in a bottle. So when he's out there, he's always going to have a huge impact. But I think the desire from Deshaun Jackson will be there to go out and exact another round of revenge against his former employers.
We're spending a few minutes with Chad Dukes from 106.7 The Fan down in Washington, D.C. Hopefully the Eagles will play the Redskins on Sunday at 1 o'clock. If this is a sloppy game and it is a raining mess down there in D.C. on Sunday, both of these offenses aren't very good. We know that, Chad. Who does the rain benefit more from an offensive standpoint?
Well, from at the beginning of the season, I probably would have said the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, if you have DeMarco Murray, for God's sakes, and Ryan Matthews, and then throw, Darren Sproles into the mix, I mean, who wouldn't like that three-headed monster? But, other than Sproles, what has that platoon done? Nothing. And you've seen the Redskins the first 2 weeks of the season absolutely dominate on the ground with Matt Jones and Alfred Morris. And look, they've got a backup guard in already, probably going to be Spencer Long that fills in for the injured John Laval. They want to run the ball. They need to run the ball. And if they're going to win this football game, regardless of weather, they got to run. So I think that if it is rainy, if it is sloppy, if it is muddy out there, that benefits Washington.
The Eagles are a mess at the offensive line, and they're already going to be without Andrew Gardner for the rest of the year, and Tobin is going to move into that guard spot. So I like to take a look at most teams' front sevens going up against the Eagles' offensive line, and there was a big difference in the pass rush from the Rams to the Giants. What happened in that week between the Rams to the Giants? Was it just a short week? Was that the reason why they couldn't generate so much pressure on the quarterback?
Well, it's not just that, Zach. It's the fact that the pass rush isn't there. You have their best pass rusher in Ryan Kerrigan, who was injured, missed all the preseason. He's not right. He has half a sack in 3 games, and then they bring in Junior Gillette. They really thought that was going to be their bookends, the guys, 13-sack guys that could get after the quarterback. He gets injured in the preseason. He's out for the season. So you got 2 second-rounders, Trent Murphy and Preston Smith, that are filling in on the other side, and there's no pass rush from anybody. Terrence Knighton was brought in to play that big run stopper in the middle at nose guard, and he's been great, and he's been good at stopping the run, and he's been able to tackle well, and this whole defense has tackled well, but they do not rush the passer, and they allow passers to get really comfortable, and that makes me nervous that Sam Bradford is going to have a get-right performance on the backs of the Washington Redskins, which we've seen so many other quarterbacks do in the past 5 years.
We do like Terrence Knighton being here at Temple University because he's a Temple Owl. And I will talk about that because you've seen a lot of bad quarterback play, Chad Dukes, in your time covering the Washington Redskins. And I know you have maybe some hopes in the back of your mind that this is a week where Sam Bradford goes out there and you're scared that he has that big breakout game. But I just don't see it. You've seen a lot of bad quarterback play. Do you think this is rust from Sam Bradford, or you just think he's not that good? Because a lot of Eagles fans here in Philadelphia do not think he is that quarterback that they thought they were getting when he came on in here by Chip Kelly.
Yeah, it's so difficult, Zach, and it's a really unique set of circumstances because you're a fool if you don't think Sam Bradford is talented, if you don't think that he can play the position, because he can. But the injuries and just his facial expressions, his body language, and things as simple as the way he wears the pads, he looks like a goofball. I mean, he's really difficult to relate to out there on the football field. And I would say you could attribute some of that stuff to Eli Manning, too. But once you win a Super Bowl MVP, a lot of that kind of goes away. I really do think the way that he holds himself, his body language, a lot of that makes him very easy to criticize. Not that he doesn't deserve criticism for this year, but it's, you have a great preseason. Also, this is his, a fourth opportunity to be in this offense. It wouldn't surprise me if he looked better this week than he has in weeks past if there is no Redskins pass rush.
We're spending a few minutes with Chad Dukes from 106.7 The Fan. I want to get to your quarterback situation because I was reading an article that said maybe RG3 gets another opportunity. Are you more pro Cousins or RG3?
I would say I'm more pro Cousins. I'm not pro either. I hate when they divide this stuff in camps. A quarterback that can lead this offense. And we have so many tribes now that have sprung up inside the D.C. area where it's, Cousins stinks, get Griffin back in there, or Griffin's finished, let's get it over. I want to see somebody do it. My whole beef with Griffin is that he can't stay healthy. And if you can't stay healthy and you don't have the ability to progress as a passer, well, then you don't have much of a shot. I think his time in D.C. is over. I think it was a mistake to keep him on the roster. I wish him luck. I think he could go to Kansas City or, hell, Philadelphia and probably resuscitate that career. I just know it's not going to be here, so I'd like to see Kirk Cousins 16 weeks, evaluate him fully, and decide whether or not you need to move on from that position.
Even though you want to see him for a full 16 weeks, that may not happen just because of the amount that you guys gave up for him. And I know that you will know the situation much better than I will, but will he ever play a game again for the Washington Redskins in RG3?
Robert Griffin III? Look, he's on the roster, and he's on the roster not because the coach wants him there. They gave him a $16 million bonus. If he goes out there and gets hurt, he's going to be due that money next season. I think he's got some very strong supporters with his franchise. I think that Dan Snyder and by proxy Bruce Allen would like to see Griffin back out there. They forced this coaching staff, from every report that we've heard, to insert him back in the lineup coming off of a victory over Dallas last year. They were going up to Minnesota. They had a chance to resuscitate their season. Griffin goes in. He doesn't play terribly, but they lose that game, and the wheels come off. I think you're crazy if you don't think you're not going to see Robert Griffin III at some point during the season for the Washington Redskins because Dan Snyder likes him and Dan Snyder owns the team.
Taking you back to when that whole thing happened in the playoff game, the injury with Dr. Andrews up against the Seahawks and all that great stuff, did you initially support Shanahan leaving RG3 in the game?
I mean, it's such a sticky wicket because the 70-year-old man, he eats, breathes, and sleeps football, and you want him to make the right decision. But if Dr. James Andrews is on the sideline, and I don't know what the composition of knees look like, and I'm a football guy, and he comes up to me and says, I'm good to go, and the player says, Coach, I'm good to go, and it's a playoff game, and you're beating the Seahawks, yeah, I probably send him back out there. And it's convenient to blame Shanahan because he was so standoffish with the media, and he was so reluctant to show any type of transparency. So I get it. I mean, the superstar athlete with the braids is way more relatable to most people. But no, I didn't have a problem with him sending Griffin out there. But that was such an unbelievable hodgepodge and so symbolic of the direction that this franchise has taken since then that it's kind of been lost in the nether for me. It's just an awful, awful time to be a Redskins fan.
Wrapping up with Chad Dukes from 106.7 The Fan. The Eagles running back situation, like you said, going into the year, you would have expected DeMarco Murray to get the bulk of the carries. Now, he returned to practice this week. He is still a bit limited, but even before that, they weren't giving him a whole lot of carries, and Chip Kelly came on a radio station here in Philadelphia, Sports Radio 94 WIP, and he said that they were basically interchangeable when talking about Murray and Ryan Matthews, not really knowing the status of Murray for Sunday, although I will expect him probably to play if this game does happen. How do you think the Redskins are preparing for both of those running backs in addition to Darren Sproles?
I think the Redskins greatest strength right now is their run defense. So I don't know how concerned they should be, especially considering how these running backs have played before. If I'm them, Sproles is the X factor. Scat backs have killed them for over a decade, and Sproles has that ability to catch a screen pass and take it 80 yards. Done that against the Washington Redskins. Also, they are obnoxious on special teams, Zach. I mean, they're one of the worst special teams units in the history of this league. They give up blocked punts. They give up punt returns to touchdowns, kickoff returns to touchdowns on a regular basis. I am focused on keeping the ball out of Darren Sproles' hands in any type of special teams situation. Kick it out of bounds, sacrifice field position, whatever you have to do not to give up that big play.
This NFC East is just not that good, and even when the Eagles were at 0-2, and how much I was ripping Chip Kelly for being stubborn and for this whole theory that he's an innovative offensive genius, which I don't really buy. I think it's blown out of proportion a bit. I still said they could still win this division because this division, as you know, is not very good. The Redskins sit at 1-2, the Giants are 1-2, obviously the Eagles are 1-2, and then the Cowboys are 2-1, but they're missing Romo and Bryant for a long time. If you had to handicap this NFC East, how would you rank these teams from top to bottom?
I mean, that's incredibly tough. I would still probably put the Eagles at the top just based on potential because I think their offense will get right. They have some questionable free agency acquisitions that I think haven't paid off yet. I think they have a lot of injuries in key spaces, and I get that. But, look, the Dallas Cowboys have an awesome offensive line. They're getting some key pieces back on defense. They should be there. They can win this division, and the Giants can win this division. I even think the Redskins figure out a way to even it at 2-2. I wouldn't count them out as well. The only reason I would say Philadelphia is because I think that their offense will get better at some point this season, and that should be enough to win what is a very mediocre NFC East.
It wouldn't be an interview with Chad Dukes if I did not bring up your rant from many years ago when the Eagles just put a beat down on the Redskins. And I will always think of this, Chad, as Eagles-Redskins week, as Chad Dukes rant week. How many times do people still bring up that rant to you?
Oh, I was mixing it up with some Eagles fans last night on Twitter, and it got brought up about 100 times. Anytime anyone from Philadelphia knows who I am, it's because of that rant. And, yeah, I mean, I get people that, there's famous people that heard it. I think I talked to you about this. Quest Love follows me on Twitter from the Roots because of the rant. And, it's not during the football season. It's from Redskins fans. When are you going to rant again? When are you going to do this again? We need it. And it's got to be natural, Zach. When you have that type of pain and that type of anguish and it bubbles over the top, that's got to be something that comes from the cockles of your heart. It cannot be manufactured. So I would say I get asked about it a lot, and I'm not sure it's something we'll ever see again because it's just too depressing down here.
110% true. Chad Dukes from 106.7 The Fan. All the love, Chad. We always appreciate you coming on.
No problem, brother. Great to talk to you.
As always, there's Chad Dukes from 106.7 The Fan. Does such a great job covering the Washington Redskins down there and says so much passion. This game, though, I'll tell you right now, if they do play it in the weather conditions, even though how bad we view the Washington Redskins as, this is going to be a sloppy 10-6, 10-7, 9-3, 6-3 kind of game. I don't see a lot of points being scored because the Eagles' offense right now is anemic. The communication up front is going to be a big issue with Gardner no longer being there. And I know that Gardner wasn't this all-pro, but that means they didn't have a whole lot of confidence in Tobin behind him. And still, I don't have the confidence in Sam Bradford. He can't find Nelson Aguilar. He can't find Jordan Matthews. He's like a deer in headlights, and he just doesn't have that confidence to me yet. And I'm sorry, Eagles fans. I don't just think this is rust. I really don't believe that we have the next franchise quarterback here in Philadelphia. And luckily, he's only on a one-year deal. But if this game is played, just maybe, this could be a confidence-building game for Sam Bradford if he goes out there and has a big performance.